everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and here we are on page 2 for Stamperia's Little Girl. Let me do a little housekeeping here. I've got the page laid out, so this is essentially what it's going to look like. I'm going to give you the measurements and give you some of the locations. Again, we're going to do the same thing we did on page 1, where we're going to have these hidden hinges, which means you're going to need to make some slits into your base page. So for this top flap and the flap underneath, they're both going to be 6.5 by 4, 6.5 by 4, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 6.5 inch side. So you're going to do that 2 times for 2 flaps, and I just have them here just so I could double check. The last piece is going to be an 8 by 4. I said 8 by 4, but that's 8 by 6, 8 by 6. I'm going to fix that so I don't make the mistake in the cut list. And then you're going to score it at 4. So it's basically a card. So 8 inches by 6, score at 4. And that's going to go onto the base page. So now let's get started on where we're going to locate these slits. So there's 2 slits. The first one is going to be slightly higher than the second one. And it is 3/4 of an inch in from the left hand side, and it is 1.5 inches down from the top, and you're going to make a 4-inch slit. So because it's going to hold these 4 by 6.5 inch flaps, so it needs to be 4 inches long. The second one is going to come in to, let's go ahead and make it 1.5 inches. So come in from the edge 1.5 inches. This one's in 3/4, 1.5, and then you're going to start your 4-inch slit at 2 inches. And that is what I did for these 2. So let's go ahead and get these put in. And this, I thought I was actually going to mount my hinge directly to the mat, but before I decided to do hidden, so I have tape on here, but disregard that. You're not going to need it. But I didn't want to waste my paper, so the tape won't hurt anything, but you don't need it. Okay, we're going to slip that in, wiggle it into place. Okay, and it's a little too deep. Okay, so there we go. So now I'm going to lay it down and just eyeball it, make sure everything looks square and straight. And it looks pretty good, so I am going to go ahead and carefully turn it over and add some glue. Oops, it's not quite right. I can tell it's sticking here. I think the tape was grabbing it. Okay, very good. Now we're good. Okay, so I'm going to get my glue ready and turn it over and glue it into place. Okay, when I did that, I noticed I'm looking again and I can see it's drifting up. That looks good. Let me double check by looking at the side here. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to turn it over and add some glue. And then when you do that, you do have just a few minutes to wiggle it into place if you need to with the glue. And of course, if you do it with the tape, you don't. You can undo it, but you don't have any time. It's going to grab right away. Okay, that's perfect. Now we're going to add the second one right here. This looks perfect. So let's go ahead, close everything, turn it over, and we'll add our little bit of glue. Yep, looks good. Okay. Burnish, burnish. Looks good. All right. Now we are going to take this bifold, again 8 by 6, and score at 4, and it's going to get nestled right underneath. And I'm just looking, I kind of like that, where I have this sort of staggered pattern here, so I think I'm going to go ahead and lay it in there. I put a reference mark, yeah, it's right here and right here. So that is going to go in like so. And I'm going to go ahead and glue the whole thing down. I was trying to decide if I wanted to only glue 3 of the 4 sides and leave it as a hidden pocket, but I think I'm just going to glue the whole thing down. Okay, so I've got these little reference, and I'll tell you, I'll give you an estimate of how far I came in. So you can see this nice little stagger. So from the left-hand edge, I came in 2 1/4 inches, just a little over 2 1/4 inches, okay? But it's going to be whatever visually is pleasing to you. Okay, and the last piece is going to be this little flap that's going to hold everything closed. And I think, I'm double checking to make sure this has got enough reach on it, and I think it does. Yeah, I want to make sure when I put the magnet in underneath that it is actually covered, and it is. So with that, let's go ahead and install our first magnet. I'm planning on covering this. This is from the Graphic 45 tag and die, and it looks like this. It has this is actually the pocket piece, and then this is the piece that I'm going to cut to layer on top of it. So the pocket is just slightly larger than the tag itself, so you wind up getting this perfectly matted element. Okay, here's my tape. Oh, I don't know what's going on, but it is super steamy in the house today. This is such a small piece to work with. I think I'm going to actually glue my magnet in instead of using double-sided tape, because I don't have a lot of space and I don't want my tape running over into the border. So I'm just going to glue this down, let it sit for a few minutes before we find the mate. Okay. Let it find its space. And then of course we need to actually adhere this flap down so that it doesn't shift up and down. So I'm going to set that aside for the moment. And because we have these 2 pieces in, we can go ahead and layer our papers in. So we just want to make sure we leave this one open because we still need to put a magnet. And I think this is what the plan was. But I'm just going to double check one more time. Yes. Okay. So do I like that? Or do I want my strip on this side? That little strip right there, I kind of like that. Okay, that looks good. So I know I can't lay this in or I'll cover up the place my magnet goes, but we can put this in. Okay, right now we're just going to focus on the A sides. Let's go ahead and put this in, and actually, so the whole thing is going to get mounted onto this pocket page, and I need to make sure my pocket is right there. So it's going to get mounted here. So I think what I'm going to do is actually No, I think I'll mat it. I was trying to decide if I want to mat it to the, glue it to the base page or glue it to this mat. And I'm going to glue it to the mat, just like so. So we're just going to add some glue here. Okay, now that that's in place, we can locate our magnets. And that's all, that's ready to go. So I'm ready to add a second magnet, which I thought I already, yeah, I was gonna say, I thought I already had one, but, so, yeah, cool. I'm just trying to make sure I had enough coverage, and I do. So I'm just gonna put some tape on the back side of this. And once I get it located, I might, depending on how close to the edge it is, I might be able to add, oh, the glue was not quite dry. So we'll leave that set for a second. Okay, there we go. That's good. Okay, we're ready to cover this now, which is this piece. So let's do that. Did I ink it? I did. We're ready. I like the darker. This is, it doesn't have a whole lot of different color variations. So one of the nice things about that is, I love working with color and pattern. Don't get me wrong. Oops, I think I need to trim it. Is that it really will highlight your photos. You won't get overwhelmed by patterns or distracted by patterns. Okay, let's see. Does that fit a little better? It seemed like it was a little too, yep. Wasn't quite the right size, but it is now. Oh, shoot, I got a little bit of glue on it. I hate that. Well, we will resolve that. So I got a little glue here. So white is difficult to deal with because it isn't very forgiving, and that is true with all pale colors. But having said that, there's a way, oftentimes a way to deal with that. I keep doing that. And we can do that with embellishments. We can cover it with embellishments. So I'm gonna stop right here because I have to go die cut a piece that's gonna fit here. And again, I'm using the tag and die. This is the pocket part. And I can show you what that looks like in a second. Sorry about that. Okay, so I used the larger piece to cut this out, and the smaller piece is what's going to mat that paper right there. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've die cut this tag out using this, and of course I had to trim it down to fit. So we're going to go ahead and apply it, cover up that magnet. All right, and then we're going to repeat this process on the flip side. Okay, I'm going to cover that up, so I need a minute, and I'm going to die cut something else. Okay, so I chose this pattern, which is the pattern on the second flap here, to use to pull that pattern back in as the cover for this closure. Okay, there we go, looks good. Okay, so there's the front and the back. And then now I'm gonna go away and come back in a few minutes with all these papers trimmed out and ready to go. So I'll be back shortly. Actually, before we move on, and before I trim out the B-sides for these flaps, let's go ahead and adhere it to the back side of page 1. And make sure your pockets are open to the left and right, and this is just going to get put right on top. And I'm going to do that real quick. Then I'll get back to trimming out the B-sides. Now you should not have tape on the back of your hinge. I did because I was planning on mounting it originally to the mat and not doing the hidden hinge. So don't worry if you don't have the tape there, you shouldn't. I think I did that on another page too, but honestly I don't remember. It's almost an automatic when I create a hinge, I want to put tape on it. Okay, just make sure I got my corners covered. So you definitely don't want your corners curling up on you. And then one more time, I'm going to check to make sure I'm installing this left to right correct. Okay. And this is page 2. And then when we get back together in a few minutes, I'll have my B-sides ready and we'll finish this up. And it looks a little simple, but I'm planning on doing some embellishing here, so that will come later. Okay, let me go get my B-sides ready and we'll be back in a minute. Hey everyone, we're back and we're gonna do the B-side of page 2. So I've got my patterns all collected and trimmed out. And I'm just gonna lay this in and try to make a decision on which order I want them in, and I kind of like it that way. So I'm gonna ink these edges really fast and lay it in. And I think it's already trimmed. It looks like it, yeah. I got a little heavy on the ink over there. I didn't realize I had done that. I'll try to be a little more careful. Pretty. Okay, now we're gonna go with the hearts here. Because the patterns are so repetitive in this collection, I've opted not to do color blocking, with the exception of page 4 and 5 where I split the base in half. But there's just, I didn't feel like there was enough variety to do color blocking. But you could easily accomplish that if you pulled in a coordinating cardstock color. Oh, and I want to apologize. Oh, it's not this page, it's next page. So the next page, I did my A-sides. And I downloaded it and it's really out of focus and I couldn't do anything to fix it. So I'm going to go through that page very slowly since you can't really see much of the build. It's so blurry. I don't know what happened to make that happen. Oh, I need to trim this. Okay, that should do it. Yes, perfect. Okay, wasn't quite right. Now it's all good. All good. Okay, that is the B side, A and B side of page